My name is Jonathan Hicks. We're doing Excel. Now I'm doing other videos for how to use Excel to create bar charts and pie charts and things like that. This is a sort of introductory video, so if you know nothing about Excel, this is just going to explain what Excel is and how you use it. I should say that I'm using Excel 2013. If you're using Excel 2007 or later, then it will be very similar. There might be a couple of things that are slightly different, but you should be able to figure it out. If you're using a version of Excel that's earlier than 2007 though, it will look very different, and I recommend you go and watch another sort of tutorial video online that'll explain how to use older versions of Excel. Alright, so here's our opening screen. When you first open Excel, typically you want to create a blank workbook. So if we just click on that one, this is what you call a workbook. It's a bit like a file. And these boxes in the middle here are called cells. And that's where you put your data. Excel is a program for producing charts, essentially. It does other things as well, but mostly that's what you're going to be using it for. So you type all your data into this area where all the boxes are, and then you can use it, as I say, to create bar charts and pie charts and things. But there's a few things you should be aware of in terms of how these cells work. So firstly, every cell is referenced. If I click on this cell here, you see it's in the D column and it's row 3 here. So this cell will be referred to as D3. You always say the letter along the top of the column before you say the row down the side. Now you can type things into the column here. If I type a word in here and press enter, then that puts it in that cell. And when I click on the cell, you'll notice in the formula bar here at the top it says word. That always tells you the actual contents of the cell. Sometimes it's not always obvious what's in the cell. I'll explain what I mean in a minute. But if you look in the formula bar, that's always what's there. So in the next cell along, you see it's blank. If I stick a number in there like 7 and press enter, you can see it appears in there. When I click on there, it says 7 again in the formula bar. So word here, 7 here, nothing there, for example. If you want to delete the contents of a cell, just click on the cell, press the delete key on the keyboard, and it disappears. So we'll get rid of that one as well. Now, I'm going to be using the same data that I'll be using in the bar chart video, so you might want to refer to that one as well. But typically, we've gone around getting people to fill out questionnaires. So we've asked a question of a group of people, we've collected their responses, and now we want to use those responses to produce a chart. So the question typically would be your title at the top. So in this case, our question is, what's your favourite colour of car? So I'll put that at the top here. So what is your... and you see at this point we've got a slight issue because the text it's not big enough to fit in the A1 cell, and it's splurged across into the B1 cell. Now, I'll talk about this in a second, but don't worry about it for now. Just keep typing. So what is your favourite car colour, for example? Stick a question mark on the end because it's a question. And when you press enter, that sort of sets it into that cell. Now, although it looks like the text has splurged across, as I say, into the B1 and the C1 cells, actually all of that text is contained within the A1 cell. If I click on the A1 cell, you can see in the formula bar here, all of the text is there. If I click on the B1 cell, no text at all. There's nothing in the B1 cell. The only reason it looks like there are letters or words in here is because it's not big enough to fit it in the A1 cell. If that happens, as I say, Excel lets it splurge across to the side. If I were to type something in the B1 cell though, like 5 for example, and press enter, now you see all of the text that was splurging across seems to have disappeared. Where's it gone? Don't worry, it's still there. It's all in the A1 cell, and if you click on the A1 cell, you'll see in the formula bar at the top, there's all the text. So why can't I see it? Well, essentially because it's not big enough to fit in, it's kind of being hidden behind the B1 cell. Because you've got something in it, the 5 here, Excel always displays what's in the cell on top of whatever is trying to splurge over. It's only when the cell's empty, if I delete that cell, that you can see this text then is allowed to splurge across again. So just be aware of that. If you want the columns to be wider so that you can fit all of the text in the cell, then you can just drag and make the columns bigger. If I hover between the A column and the B column here, I get that kind of line with the arrows pointing in either direction. If you click and hold your mouse button down on that and then drag it to the right, you can see the A column is now bigger, and when I let go of my mouse button, it then makes that column much wider. But I don't mind it being so like the standard width, so I'm just going to undo that, Control Z on the keyboard will undo. Incidentally, you've also got an undo button up here. If you click the back arrow, it undoes the last thing you did. If you click the forwards arrow, it does it again. So if I click the forwards arrow, it widens the column. If I undo, it goes back again. So they're quite useful buttons at the top there. So now we need to type our data in. Now, first of all, we need some car colors. So we're going to start with red. So again, I just click on that cell, I start typing, I press enter. And when you press enter, the selection, the sort of green box, moves down to the next box down, so I can type my next entry, which is going to be blue. Press enter. We've got white, black, and finally silver. Enter. There we go. Now it's at the bottom, so I want to come back up to the red one, so I'm going to click on here, and I want to type in the frequencies, the number of people who picked that color. So we had 8 for the red, so I type 8 and press enter. Blue then is going to be 13, white is 2, black is 9, and silver needs to be 18. So there we go, we've typed all our data in. Incidentally, by default, Excel will always right align numbers. So you see all these numbers are on the right hand side of their cells. That kind of lets you know that it's a number apart from anything else, but Excel will always right align numbers. Text, however, all of these words, you see a left align, they're all on the left hand side of their cell. So just bear in mind, Excel will always do that. You can change it if you want to. The alignment options are at the top here. So if I were to click on that, I could stick it in the middle of the cell if I wanted to, or this left align, we'll put it on the left. But as I say, typically it should be on the right, so we'll just leave it there. Now, what I've forgotten to do here is actually put column titles on here. If you were to look at this, you'd see, what is your favorite car color? Okay, so I guess these must be the colors of the cars. But what are these numbers? You need a title at the top of the column to say what the numbers are. And you find that happens quite a lot in Excel. You want to put some text in and, oh, you haven't left enough room. How do you get them all to move down so you've got enough room to put the column titles in? I want to leave a blank line here just to separate the title, the question, from the rest of the text, so I don't want to fill in that one. Well, if you want to insert an extra row or a column in, you just right click on the column you want it to go in front of. So in this case, I want it to go above the 3 row. So I'm going to right click here. And then if you go down to insert, when I click that, it sticks an extra row in above where the 3 row used to be. So all of our text here has gone down. And now you can see I've got space to type the column headings in the top here. So this is going to be our color. So if I type color in there, press enter, and then click on this one, and this is going to be the frequency. So we'll type frequency there. Now you notice frequency has gone over slightly into the C3 cell here. So I could just widen that B column if I wanted to, like that. Again, you hover between the B and C columns and just drag to the right. Now there are other standard formatting things you can do in Excel. So for example, if I wanted these two things to be bold, you can click on the bold here. Maybe you want your title at the top here to be bigger. So I can click on the increase the font size button, click that a few times maybe and make it bigger. Notice that I only need to select the A1 cell. Remember, all of that text is actually in the A1 cell. If I click in the C1 cell and try and do something to it, like make it bold, nothing happens because there's nothing in the C1 cell. If I want to make this text bold, I have to click in the A1 cell. I can see that's where all the text is, and then I can make it bold. You can change the font, of course, and you can do all the things that you normally do with Word, standard word processing things. So that's the basics essentially. That's how you type data into Excel. If you want to use it to create charts, you're going to find most of the charts on the Insert tab at the top here. So if you click on Insert, you'll see there's a whole bunch of different charts. We've got bar charts and pie charts and scatter graphs and things like that. But as I say, I'll talk you through the specifics of that in the bar chart video and the pie chart video and things like that. This was just to give you an overview of how you type the data in, how you get going with Excel. If you find you've lost all your familiar buttons, you can always click on the Home tab at the top, and then that's all your sort of word processing type buttons which will come back again. Finally then, you should always save your work once you've finished. It's very important, very easy to forget to save your work. You'll notice it says Book 1 at the top. That's the default name that Excel gives it, and that means that I haven't saved this yet. So if you click on the Save button at the top, you'll get a little dialog here and you can pick a location, save it in your My Documents folder or something like that. But just to remind you, it's very important to save it. If you then want to go back and start editing the cells and change the data, you might be like, where have all my tabs gone along the top? How do I get the file back? You'll notice there's a big arrow at the top left here that points to the left. If If you click on that, it'll take you back. So that's where you're going to find everything. So as I say, go and watch the bar chart video if you want to know how to use this data to create a bar chart. But I think we'll leave this video there.